Hi, welcome to Alive with Bhavna. This is Bhavna speaking. Today our topic is all about being calm in the storm. For those of you who don't know me or the show or new to the show, I am Bhavna Nagar. I come from South Africa and I've worked as a clinical psychologist in New Zealand for the last 11 years. I've been involved with mindfulness from 2005, and since coming to New Zealand, I've been teaching mindfulness as a practice as well. Recently, in the last 5 years or so, I've worked on self-love, and that's my take on mindfulness, looking at how to look at our relationship with ourselves and change our relationship with ourselves. This has resulted in a book entitled Self-Love, The First Step. So what is mindfulness? Mindfulness is the art of learning how to be in our bodies at this moment with all that it entails. It has the attitude of acceptance and non-judgment. And those are two very key components in terms of mindfulness. Acceptance of what is happening in this moment without going, but it shouldn't be. The self-love element is about the mindfulness in terms of how it relates to myself, how I see myself, how I judge myself, how do I accept myself, warts and all. For me, the combination between the traditional mindfulness practice and the self-love results in more sustained well-being. It results in a greater sense of peace within myself. So today's topic is being calm in the storm. So recently I had a series of altercations with someone who I love dearly. What impressed me about my response during these altercations was that at no time during the 3 altercations did I lose my temper or lose my cool. I was able to remain calm and centered while responding to the rants and raves of this person. And because of being calm and centered, I was connected with my thinking, logical brain. Something I'll explain later as I talk in this talk today. And because I was able to be part of that logical brain, I was able to express my point of view without going into insults, without going into being disrespectful. He was in the fight or flight part of his brain because that meant that his logical brain was switched off and he was just responding from a position of anger, hostility. I know that me being calm during the altercations angered him a bit more and caused a slightly increased response. Because in some ways it's no fun being angry and the other person being really calm and responding in a very calm manner to you. When you're angry, when you're looking for a fight, it's always more satisfying to actually have a fight. This is something I learned in my teenage years. Someone told me not to respond to my brother when he insulted me or called me names. And one day I decided, okay, I'm going to try this out. And it was the funniest thing from my point of view, not so much from his point of view. But my brother called me stupid. And I went, it's true. I am stupid. And I gave him a good reason as to why I was stupid. And then he came with his second insult. And again, I just responded, it's true. And I gave him evidence to back up why it was true. And with each insult that he threw at me and each time I responded with it's true, you could see him getting angrier and angrier. You could see the steam coming out of his ears if this was a cartoon. And eventually, after the 3rd insult or so, he stormed off because it was no fun fighting with me. So I call this verbal Aikido because in Aikido, you're learning how to accept your opponent's attack and you're changing the direction of it. And that's what I did with my brother. With regard to this recent altercation, after the 3rd and most vile altercation, I decided that I will leave the situation. I will get out of that situation. And this was an act of self-love for me, but it was also an act of love for the other person or the other people involved. So during this one, I was calm and centered, just like all the other ones. And afterwards, I was able to express my pain. I was able to express my loss. I was able to comfort myself. Because that's part of the self-love as well, is that idea of allowing myself to feel the pain, allowing myself to feel rejection, to feel the hurt from the hurtful things that were said, the vile things that were said. And obviously, at that time, the hurtful words, the mudslinging from the other person hurt me a lot. But after some internal work, meditations and other practices, I was able to let that go. I was able to recognize that, yes, part of the hurtful words was said because that's how the person feels towards me, but some of it was also just said out of anger. And in this way, I was able to let it go. And this is so, so different to the me who would have responded to this, I don't know, a few years ago, 5 years ago at least, maybe as recent as maybe last year, I'm not sure. I would have responded to this whole series of altercations very, very differently. I would have raised my voice, I would have shouted, I would have sworn, I would have done exactly what this other person did. I would have done mudslinging as well. Saying hurtful things just to get a response or to actually just hurt the other person. Might have stormed out of the house crying, feeling hurt. After the altercations, I would have played it over and over and over in my head, going, how can someone I love say this to me? How can he be so mean? How can he think this of me? Doesn't he love me? And I would have done that every day. Or not even once a day, a good few times a day. I would have cried probably every day. Because every time I replayed it, I would have been hurt by what happened. So as horrible as the situation was, it afforded me the opportunity to see how much I've grown in the last few years. It afforded me the opportunity to see that my practices aren't just valid when I'm sitting on the cushion in the house, but it's actually valid in terms of how I respond to life, how I respond to difficult situations in the moment. So how did mindfulness and the self-love contribute to the changes in me? In terms of the mechanicals, I have no idea. I have no idea in terms of how it actually changes my brain, but I do know mindfulness is brain surgery. It changes the format of your brain. It changes how your brain functions. In terms of doing I didn't do anything during the altercations that were different. I didn't think, okay, now I got to be calm and I got to be centered and I have to use these tools and I got to do this. And there was no thinking, there was no planning, there was no how should I respond to this. It was actually just me responding from my heart, staying connected to my heart. So the head part of me wasn't trying to implement a technique. I didn't go, okay, cool, like what I did with my brother. I didn't go, okay, cool, I'm going to implement verbal aikido here. I just allowed myself to be fully present in the situation. And often we try to use strategies, and clients will often come to me and go, so what must I do when my husband does this? Or how do I respond to this? I'm not sure if we can train ourselves how to respond. It's training ourselves how to be authentic, how to be real. And that's what I believe I was. I was authentic and real to myself. I was able to connect with my heart and stay connected to my higher self, my rational brain, more than if I'd lost touch with myself, if I'd gone into the fight or flight mode. So like I said, mindfulness is literally doing brain surgery. It's about changing how your brain functions. Most of us, when we start mindfulness or start meditation, we often go, that was a good sit. A good sit meaning a day where actually I'm having my mindfulness practice and everything's bliss and I'm feeling calm and I'm feeling centered, and that's a good sit. But then we go, oh, today wasn't a good sit. My mind was racing all over the show. I couldn't focus. I was feeling pain. I was feeling distress. It just wasn't a good sit. And like most beginner meditators and some advanced ones, I was guilty of this as well. Every time after I finished my practice, I'd go, oh, that was a good sit or that was a bad sit. Through the support of lots of teachers, I've learned that there's no such thing as a good sit or a bad sit. It is a sit. It is a moment where I'm connecting with myself. It's a moment where I'm connecting with reality of whatever is manifesting in my mind, body at the moment. Sometimes it's a lovely, pleasant experience, and that's great. Sometimes it's not. I like to think of the mindfulness as me learning to sit with myself through all weather patterns. A nice sunny day, that's lovely. And I'll sit with myself in the sunny days. But I'll also sit with myself during a storm, during a hurricane, a tornado. But the difference is, during the difficult periods, I actually sit with myself with love and compassion, holding myself as I would hold a loving child who is going through pain. So in this way, I learn to feel the pain and be supported by the pain. And this is how I've learned how to sit with myself. This is how I've learned that mindfulness isn't about striving for or trying to get to the good sit. It's actually about just saying all experiences are welcomed, the good and the not so good, the pleasant and the not so and the unpleasant. There's no such thing as a bad sit. There's no such thing as a distracted sit. As long as I keep bringing myself back to the present, I'm doing mindfulness. So what I've also learned is that, like I've said, mindfulness is brain science. And what happens is, for most people, we put everything in our fight or flight brain. So we respond to conditions. We make reality very conditional. As long as things are going my way, as long as things are going right, then I can be okay, then I can be happy. The moment things are not going right, then I can't be happy. So then I have to stop what I'm doing and try and change the situation, try and change the environment, get everything right, so then I can go back to being happy. That's conditional happiness. In terms of mindfulness, it's learning that conditions are irrelevant. I'm in charge of my mind, I'm in charge of my energy, I'm in charge of my attitudes. So how can I bring in peace during the storm? How can I bring in peace when things around me aren't so pleasant? And I think that's the mindfulness practice that helped me stay calm during these difficult altercations, because I'd learn how to sit with myself during the storms. The storms that brew in my heart, the storms that brew over the difficulties in my life. I learned not to respond to them, not to engage with them. In terms of brain science, what this means is that if we respond to everything that happens to us from our fight or flight brain, then anything that goes wrong I see as a disaster. And my fight or flight brain is activated, and I get aroused and try to fix this and become flustered. Because that's the fight or flight brain. It bypasses our thinking brain. It just goes, oh my God, something's wrong, I need to fix this, quickly sort it out. It's very, very reactive. Mindfulness is about changing that and taking the things that don't belong in the fight or flight brain and putting it into our thinking brain, into our rational brain. So basically it's cleaning out the fight or flight brain so that it only fires when my life is in danger, when it's actually needed. At any other time of my life, my rational brain, my logical brain, is able to function. How mindfulness does that, I have no idea, but that is the science behind what the practice does. And that's why I could respond to the situation from my logical brain, whereas he responded from the more primitive fight or flight brain. So I owe a lot to my mindfulness practice in terms of why I was able to be calm in the storm. In terms of the self-love practice, me removing myself from the situation was part of working from my self-love principles. For myself, but also for him and other people involved. It was saying, in order for you to have peace, I will remove myself so that we don't have more of these arguments. We don't have more of these altercations. Part of the self-love is also that idea of allowing myself to cry, allowing myself to feel the pain, to feel the losses, but also not to replay the incident over and over again, to stop talking about it to people, because every time I played with it or replayed it, I was causing myself distress. The self-love has also helped me realize that despite what's happened, I still love this person. And that's quite different to the me who would have been a few years ago. You cross me and actually I don't want to really have much to do with you. Thank you very much. Now I actually go, no, I do value this person. I do value the relationship. I don't value the abuse. I don't value the ranting and raving, but I value the relationship. So it's helped me, the self-love work has helped me realize the love connection. It's helped me realize that I do still want the best for this person. I do still want this person to be happy and have peace. He has to do the work. I cannot do it for him. That's the other part of the self-love, where previously I would try and jump in and do the rescuing. Whereas this time it's, no, I'm removing myself from the situation. You need to have the tools. You need to practice cleaning out that fight or flight brain so that every incident in your life is not a reaction. So yeah, those are kind of what I've learned from the situation. I can honestly say I do not harbor any anger or hatred at the situation, at what happened, or at the person, because for me to harbor anger or hatred means I lose myself. It means I lose my heart. And I've worked so hard in the last few years to hold on to my heart, to hold on to my peace, that's a very important part of me. And I will not let anyone take that from me. Or I will not give it away, because no one can take it away from me. I can give it away, or I cannot give it away. Someone asked the Dalai Lama why he's not angry at China. They've taken his land, they've tortured all his people, they've done such atrocity. And his answer was exactly that. They've taken everything they can take. But if I get angry, they get me. And I'm not willing to give me up. And that's the same thing here. I'm not willing to give me up. I love me too much or enough to stay true to myself, to stay connected, to honor who I am and what I've become. Yeah, so that's kind of my journey in terms of being calm in the storm, and how mindfulness changes your brain structure, changes who you are, so that you can be a different person in the storm. It's not about implementing techniques. It's not about trying different things. It's about learning how to be compassionate to yourself, learning how to change your brain structure so that when you need it, you're able to stay connected to your higher logical brain rather than your more primitive fight or flight reflexes. That's the gift of mindfulness. That's the gift of the daily practice. And that's why mindfulness has to be done on a daily practice, because I can't do brain surgery in a short 4-week course or even a retreat. It's continual work, because every now and then I'll just kind of add one more thing into my fight or flight brain, and the mindfulness practice is going, that part doesn't belong there. That part goes back out into the logical brain. It allows me to reflect on life. It allows me to connect with life in a more peaceful way. Seeing difficulties, seeing problems, that's just that. It is a problem. It is a difficulty, but it's a passing phase. It's not a permanent reflection, and something, whatever, will come out of this difficulty that I've just experienced with this person. What it is, I don't know. How it will look, I don't know. We wait and see what changes are being made on that side and on this side, and together we might have a different relationship. So this is Bhavna with Alive with Bhavna, exploring mindfulness. If you want to contact me, my number is 022 08 43 095. We are hosting a retreat from the 11th to 14th of October at Tamwata Retreat Center in the Coromandel. There is ACC funding available for that if you're on ACC sensitive claims, or the cost is $495. So that's the 11th to 14th of October at Tamwata Retreat Center. My details again are alivepsych.co.nz, and the phone number is 022 08 43 095, and that's Alive with Bhavna. Anything mindfulness or as a clinical psychologist, please contact me. Thank you.